Hey guys, I'm Tyler and today we are going to build this walnut floating shelf. This isn't just your typical floating shelf, as it has a secret compartment inside that opens on hinges and has magnetic child safety locks to hold it closed when you don't want anyone getting inside. Right now I'm just using the magnets that came with the locks to unlock it, but at some point in time we'll put some little knickknacks up on there with a magnet on the bottom so you never even know that the key is up there. What you do to open it is you take your magnets, place them over the magnetic locks inside, and open it up. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button right over there so you never miss when I upload a new video. Let's get started. Did you know you could get plywood shipped to you in the mail? Neither did I up until now. This plywood is from PureBond hardwood plywood, and these are walnut veneer project panels. PureBond is actually sponsoring this video, so huge shout out to them. And their plywood is all manufactured in the United States of America and is formaldehyde free, which is better for you and your children as it doesn't have any of those cancer-causing substances in the glue. I got started by ripping everything to the proper dimensions using the table saw. I've chosen this board to be the front of my shelf, and I want to get one continuous grain pattern all the way around. So I'm going to cut it on the miter saw, making sure I take into account the miters that need to go in here so that I can get that continuous grain pattern. What I'm doing right here is actually using some blue painter's tape as a zero clearance insert on the miter saw to prevent any tear out in this delicate walnut veneer. And I would highly recommend using a stop block so that you can get repeatable cuts so that your miters are exactly the same. And here you can see what a clean cut you get if you use the painter's tape. So I'm going to try to use some painter's tape to guide the miters into place. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to clamp them once they are in place. But I'm going to use the painter's tape to guide them around what is going to be the bottom of the box of the shelf and glue it all into place. I'm probably going to have to add some clamps like I said. And just in case all else fails, I got my pin nailer that I could shoot a couple pins in, and hopefully you won't see them in the dark walnut. But that is the last resort. I hope that I don't need to add any pins. Just between you and I did have to end up using pin nails, but you can hardly tell that they're even in that dark walnut veneer. The back of the shelf, which is also going to be the mounting bracket, is going to slide in between the box. Then we're going to mount these two little arms towards the end, and that'll be a hard stop basically for the shelf to bang up to on the bottom. So I'm just going to glue and brad nail these in place from the back. I'm going to use this little spacer to space it away from the wall of the shelf that is going to hinge out of the way so that it doesn't cause any extra friction. Throughout the project, keep a good eye for any squeeze out, as you don't want that showing through in your finish. The hinging motion is going to be done with these Euro style hinges. And this is going to mount against the wall and this into the base here of the shelf. You can see here how it allows the base of the shelf to pull down and away from the wall, allowing you a nice easy motion. I'm going to use this handy little jig to help me guide the holes when I drill for these Euro hinges. Make sure you do a couple test cuts, because especially in this 1/2 inch plywood, it is pretty much all the way through the plywood itself, just leaving a little bit of the veneer on the other side. So you got to be real careful when you drill those holes. If I was to make this project again, I probably would use 3/4 inch thick plywood. simply because the veneer was really the only thing left in the thickness of the plywood after drilling for these Euro hinges. If you're going to build one, I would highly recommend using 3/4 inch walnut plywood. And here you can see how those Euro hinges allow the bottom of the shelf to fold away from the wall and allow you proper movement. After some quick glue and clamps to get the top secured in place, I added some walnut edge banding to cover the top of the shelf so that when you open it up and fold it down, you don't see the edge of the plywood, which in my opinion looks great, but I wanted this to look a little bit more like solid wood. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with how these miters turned out. The grain wraps the edge perfectly. So I quickly made a couple pieces of profiled trim. If you want to see how I did that, you can click up the link right there and watch that video. A separate video because it doesn't really have anything to do with that. You can buy any trim you want at the home center, but I just made my own walnut trim real quick. And I'm going to put this profiled trim on the top edges and then a flat trim with a profiled edge on the bottom. I'm going to use these child safety locks that have a magnetic release. I saw this idea being used on King of Random's YouTube channel, link in the description below, big channel, you guys probably know about them already. But I'm going to put them on right now and use a plywood spacer, which is the same thickness as this, to properly space off from the top. After a little bit of trial and error, you can see you need much more spacing than this 1/2 inch, and that's because of the arc of the hinge coming up and closing on top of this. So it looks about 1 1/4 inches or so. Keep that in mind. This chain is going to be used to capture the shelf when it is open so that it doesn't fall completely against the wall. It holds it at a slight angle and looks super cool. If you use eye hooks like this, just be careful that you don't poke them through the 1/2 inch plywood, or 3/4 inch plywood if that is what you ended up using. A little bit of sanding with 220 grit to get everything smooth and looking great, and then it was time for our favorite part, adding the finish. I am using General Finishes Armor Seal in satin for this finish. Mounting the shelf is relatively simple. I simply put it up where I wanted it, leveled it, and then screwed through the back of the shelf, which is the holding cleat, and bolted it into place with 2.5 inch deck screws with a washer. And here you can see the shelf in action. If I was to do it again, I would extend the trim out a little bit further from the part of the shelf that folds away so that it won't catch as much as it does right now. Right now it's not an issue at all, but I think over time it might wear it down a little bit where I need to stain the little bit of the corner that might wear out. Just something to keep in mind. Well, there you go, guys. I think it turned out great. I absolutely love working with walnut. It's such a rewarding wood, such beautiful grain, and easy to work with, quite frankly. I didn't think the veneer on the plywood would turn out so well, but absolutely awesome. Props to a good product. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hammer that thumbs up button. Please hit that subscribe button right over there so you never miss when we upload a new video. I'm DIY Tyler. You guys have a good one.